all right, I am here. Sorry, I was in the middle of typing up a Facebook message. It went kind of long. Didn't realize it was 1:30. All right, so getting back to trying to get this sucker finished up. I think I'm going to work on this panel right here. This is panel 3, the chomp panel. This should be fairly easy. Alright, so let's take a look at what I got here going on. I got details, so we'll turn those off. And basically it's just what we have here. So I notice I got some lines that are going to be kind of leaking on me. So I need to merge those down. And probably reinforce my borders here a little bit. So we'll go to our pen. I'm going to fix those up. Panel 2, let's see. Go ahead and thicken those. Okay. So that's a little cleaner now. Alright, so there's a couple of ways to get around having these, because this line is on a completely different layer, so if I was to use the fill tool, it's just going to fill all over tarnation. So what I can do is I can go in and make some better lines. So really, maybe if I just move, yeah, that'll help. So what I did is I moved panel 4 above panel 3, so that now if I lay down a line to basically trap my colors, then I won't have that issue. So I need to do that on both of these. Now I should be able to just go ahead and do all the fill colors. My new backpack arrived and I had to return it because it was just a hair too small. So I ordered the larger version, which doesn't come in the exact color that I wanted, but close enough. Darn technicalities. Trying to get something that'll fit my drawing board, my 11 by 17 paper, some prints, and then I can just throw that on my back and get on the airplane and still be able to set up for a show. Not a whole lot going on, so this panel actually shouldn't take very long. We should be able to get down to working on one of those others. Hello, Paul. You notice there's no pupil. That's on purpose, because he's blinded by rage. There we go. Another little useful trick when you've got little holes you need to fill of color, instead of doing them on the same layer, just do a layer below it and merge those down. That way you don't have to worry about cleaning anything up. Alright, so I think we're just going to do kind of a standard static color background. Let's see, we've been doing... I think we're going to try to keep the same feel of this panel in this panel. So we'll stick with our bright yellow, and probably I might try to see if I can just reuse these elements that I already created to get that feeling there. So let's take a look here at panel 2. There we are. So I'm going to duplicate that and drag it into, what are we working on here? Panel 3. That's pretty cool. That looks pretty good. Get the exact opposite. That's kind of neat. Work it out. But that's, that doesn't look too bad. I'm going to stick with this for just a little bit and see. So we're not getting exactly, this isn't exactly the same, because this effect up here, we're getting more of a rush in. So I like having the lines overlapping, but this is kind of an aftermath. So that's kind of pretty good. Well, that's part of the thing, is that later on in the story he's got to find his, his unique weapon. Alright, so if we keep that like it is, now we'll go in and do shadow areas. I'm trying to be a little bit more judicial with doing it this time. So I selected the color layer and I went back to the multiply layer so that I can do some cleaner shadows with the flesh tones for right now. Oh, yeah. I think in the chat, the title for this chapter is simply just going to be The Dreaded Dinosaur Man. Because we're seeing his, how he got his reputation. Those villagers. Didn't they say? And someday we'll have to tell the villagers' story. He's biting down. He's going to be snarling more. And so I can use this shadow color to kind of make him snarl, like get the skin kind of folded up more without having to resort to always using the black line art for this. Let's see. You know what? This is not stressful at all. Why? Because I started drawing at shows. So drawing at shows, drawing in public. I kind of feel the same, almost the same amount of, I don't know, not even stress because it's just the sameness. It's just kind of like I'm aware that there's people around me, even though I'm by myself here, who's going to be watching this. So I can keep that the same measured responses that I would have in real life. And I've just gotten used to doing it in public. In fact, I think I'm a little bit more relaxed since that's most of the time when I'm doing my live drawing at shows. I've just gotten used to that, so it's a little. I guess it's a little more relaxing than doing it by myself. Because also like when I'm not doing the show or I'm just here in the studio by myself, I tend to look for excuses sometimes to stop and rest. And then at least here I feel like I've got, just like there's a time crunch at a show, I've got 30 minutes to get this sketch done, so it's not a waste of my time. Then I guess I tend to produce some better work that way. I don't know if that makes any sense whatsoever, but it's kind of the best way that I can explain it. How's my personality reflected in my work? I don't know. I used to be one of those people who their work was their baby, so they would take criticism and get, kind of butthurt about it and be like, oh, I guess I'll give up and go live in the corner and move to the mountains and not bother people anymore. If there was ever, some negative criticism about it. Now it's just like, I tend to look at it more as a product, I think, than as any sort of piece of myself. Although I could say definitely in the writing stages, there are some elements that I think that are universal for the human condition. With Dinosaur Man, we struggle with this animal part of us, or the sin nature of us, the part of us that loses control, gets angry. That's common for all of us. That's a common thing. So I'm aware of that in writing him, and I think that's probably the strength when that starts to really come out in his character. People will identify with that. Be like, oh yeah, I can kind of commiserate. So I think that's what's really going to make this character work with the peoples, is his ability to be relatable. So that's kind of what we're going for, I guess. I think I need more stabilization here for this. Ah, wrong with it. Okay, then we'll do a little bit. This is all going to get smudged out. Along those lines, maybe we'll bring in, no, I don't like that at all. So let's do a dodge layer. There we go. So now if we have like a little bit of blur coming off of him here, he's still kind of really clamping down there. All right, so let's get the shading going for our victim, Chet. He's mostly going to be in shadow, actually, so I think what I'll do is I'll turn this layer back on and then just kind of fill him in with shadow color. And then trim out the parts that are not... Oops, what happened? Alright, so he's getting clamped down on. Best worst piece of advice that who they? Me? Ever received from someone? Are you copying and pasting questions from the internet? Best piece of advice was definitely Doug Paskowitz of Arsenic Lullaby telling me just never give up, never quit. Because you got to have staying power. You put in your time, get your years in where people start to recognize you at shows, become familiar with your work, build an audience. You know, you gotta put that time in. You can't just like come set up your show with your Just Like X-Men crappy comic, throw up a banner, sit there, look all dopey faced because people aren't swarming your table thinking, oh, look, it's the greatest thing ever. It's fun. Somebody finally drew it or wrote it or whatever. You can't do that. I actually saw a guy go up against, like, he was just kind of in a trance going back and forth against his table, you know, had his banner there, his little comic book, just going, buy my stuff, buy my stuff. You know, you're not developing relationships with people like that. That's the stay away from me attitude going on there. You know, somebody needs to call this person's family because he might do something drastic to himself type mentality. And honestly, if you're that fragile, don't get into this business because you're opening yourself up to immense amounts of criticisms the more well-known you become. So just, you know, be nice to everybody and kind of keep a stiff upper lip. So yeah, definitely that all came from me saying never give up was some of the best advice that I ever got. Worst advice was probably just like, you know what, the worst advice that somebody can give you, especially if they're in the industry, is to give you false positive criticism because they don't want to hurt your feelings. That's the worst advice somebody could possibly give you. So if you got a portfolio and you've submitted it to something and they're saying something, oh, it looks great, you should definitely keep this up, do this. Number one, be wary of the looks great part. But as long as they're giving you some actual constructive feedback, it's good. But if somebody says, oh, this is fantastic, you're the greatest thing since sliced bread, your mom was right about you, you know, those types of things, but then they don't call you back, or, you know, if they don't offer any constructive criticism, I would go elsewhere for your for finding out if it's worth it to try to do this or not. Honestly, because everybody has room for improvement. Everybody's got some part that they could do better, or they look at and they, you know, there's no perfect drawing. Even the legends have off days. So if I could combine those into 2 pieces of advice, I would say, first of all, never give up. Number 2, take all the if this is really something you want to do, take every bit of constructive criticism you can. Talk to somebody who is an industry professional and tell them, look, what do I need to work on? Ask that question. Lead with that question. And let's face it, there's people in this industry who don't belong in this industry because they're a certain, you know, political persuasion, or they're a certain type of like subgroup, or they just have friends in the industry. There's always going to be that in every field that you go into. So there's just, you know, that's another thing you just can't get butthurt about. You just got to roll with the punches and, you know, keep doing what you're doing, and hopefully, you know, you'll find a company or a person who realizes your merit and gives you a shot. Or your IP, for example, like Dinosaur Man here, gets an audience, and we are building an audience. Every time I see 1 or 2 more subscriptions on there, I'm just overjoyed. I don't have the benefit of Webtoon promoting me with a launch event or anything like that, where I can just wake up one day and there's 26,000 subscribers or something. I'm gonna build this slow boil. So I am eternally grateful for you guys' support and anybody who's taken the time to watch this. Oh, cool. Awesome. Well, at least you're not copying and pasting them off of some blog or something. That's awesome. Well, hello, everybody who's watching this live on the Indie Volt Network. That's incredible. Thanks for the heads up. No, that's okay. All right, so we're kind of getting into, I'm really liking what we got going on here. I think I'm going to do a few darker shadows to really make the contrasts here pop. Because he's got his mouth casting a shadow over. And we can see kind of some of our mistakes too. Got some teeth here that need to be fixed. All right, so now we're really getting a good sense that there's some gaps in his clothing. Gap here, but in the mouth, shadowing that in. Alright, so I'll just do some airbrush now. I'm going to soften this up. Send this stuff back a little bit further in some areas, and that helps us get a good transition going too. Alright, so clamping down, boom, boom. That's looking pretty good. I think there's going to be a little bit more light kind of coming over him, so I want to do, let's do an old-fashioned cut and grad thing for that. So by keeping myself with this kind of an additive pen, I can go in and try to grab. What are we doing? Dark? No. Stupid wrong selecting tool. That's kind of more of the old-fashioned way of doing things. Okay, so that's the cut. Now the grad part. There. So now we got a little bit more light kind of beaming in, kind of turning around on him, and helps get the figure look a little bit more three-dimensional. And I'm just using this blend tool to kind of soften that up and move it around a little bit. Cool. I think we can go darker back here too. So if I go back to my multiply and just and bring that in a little. All right, now for what Varian has been waiting for, getting the blood and gore in there. So, just like Photoshop, you can have multiple color sets. So I'm switching to this skin other one that I have, and it's got some nice, more truer reds, not quite like the prawn that I'm used to using. I'm going to turn those details back on, and as you can see, it's looking pretty good. So we've got two things we want to do, blood and saliva. So I think I'll do the saliva and then I'll do the blood underneath of it just so I can get no. Did that wrong. I did the opacity on the layer instead of the opacity on the brush. Because I want to lower the opacity on the brush so that you can build it up and have some highlights on the Alright, and then we'll do another layer, and then we'll go to our blood. In our blood, we're going to do same opacity. I'm going to try doing it as a multiply, though. with, yeah, no, and so, yeah, so instead of doing the same opacity, lower the opacity, do multiply, so that we'll get some darker, we should be able to get the opposite effect of. Okay, so he's getting significantly gouged there. I wonder if there's any way to, oh, you know what, that's kind of cool. What if I duplicate this layer and make the one underneath normal? There, now we're getting like a really nice brightness out of it. All right, very cool, very cool. Okay, so this basically finishes this panel off. I've got a few little highlights here. Maybe I should go in and do, you know, basically just some little highlights here off the fingers. Kind of blend those in, pop those fingers out a little bit more because they're more in what's going on with the light. And maybe fade that out. All right, so now all we're missing is a giant chomp right here and some terror screaming. You know, maybe we'll do the chomp here, and the scream can travel up this way. Then he gets thrown. His buddy reacts to it. His buddy's running, goes for his gun, and it's not going to end well after that. Oh. Trouble is, let's see. Ah, yeah, I got this errant blue line layer in there. Okay. Move that up, clean that up a bit. All right, well, it is 2:17. I've been on for 45 minutes. Kind of looks good on the blood and gore. All right, that's great. So we'll go up here and we'll save this. And we will keep on keeping on, finishing this up. I'm doing a lot of work on Dinosaur Man to kind of make up for the work I didn't get done over the weekend. So I'll be sketching tonight, getting the next chapter of this more flushed out so that maybe we can take a look at in the next couple of days. And hopefully get all of this finished up by week's end would be my goal. That way I can get it lettered and get it in the hopper for publishing on Webtoons. So please, especially you new viewers out there streaming live through IndieVolt, listening in, go to webtoons.com, search for Dinosaur Man, and subscribe. The more subscribers we have, the more comments we have, the more attention that Webtoons gets for it, and the more likelihood that they'll start paying me a salary one day to publish this story. And hopefully we can get to a point where I can just mainly focus on Dinosaur Man, the occasional fan arts, and travel around shows. We'll have a solid book out hopefully by the end of the year too. That'll have the origin stories in it. So looking forward to that. Until then, you can learn more about me on the Facebook page, the Twitter feed, the Insta, MySpace book. Of course, my Patreon, I've got updates to do. I'm going to do those updates right after I log off here and get the rewards in the Google Drive for my higher-end patrons. They get high reses of everything I produce, fan art-wise. And then I got some more sketches to upload for the preview stuff, so that'll be cool. Anyway, thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you all tomorrow.